Judgment of technique in women's artistic gymnastics. It is intended, through the technique lecture, that the judges apply a higher standard as up to now for the judgment of technique and, of course, for all value parts, that is for A parts as well as for D and E, respectively, and for new and difficult elements. In the past years, there was work predominantly with form faults, to a lesser degree with technique and combination faults. The differentiation of the performances was not satisfactory. The scores were located closer together than the performances. That must be reduced in the new cycle, so that also better objectivity, especially concerning technique and combination, is able to be brought about. Fundamentals for technique. They will be characterized by open body angles, stretched arms, high support, clear, distinct body positions or form, quick turns, exactness as of combination turns, high flight phases, high body positions upon landings, sure stand upon landings of elements and dismounts, and absolute body tension. We will begin with open body angles. Vault. You are seeing an entry phase with full open arm body angle. Same on bars, with flight from low bar to high bar. In the C element Shaposhnikova, the body is consequently located stretched in the air. With the support on bars, again, an open body angle is demonstrated. One is able to clearly see how the gymnast pushes out from the shoulder upward in order to hold a high support, and with this, the largest possible distance from the point of grasp. These technical fundamentals will be applied during the entire movement, as is demonstrated in the example, clear hip circle to handstand. The gymnast has fully stretched arms here in the downward and upward movement, a completely tight body, and an open body angle which corresponds to the circle technique. This execution should be our technical model for the evaluation of all clear circles. We see the same ideal technique now on beam. The gymnast in the upper left screen demonstrates an ideal handstand characterized by high support, stretched arms, open arm body angle and leg body angle, absolute body tension, and side straddle of the legs with 180-degree separation angle. From this ideal handstand, deductions originate for the following executions. The arm-body angle of this gymnast is not fully opened, by which the feet are situated outside of the vertical. According to the decisions of the WTC, the handstands on all apparatus will be recognized with a deviation of 10 degrees to both sides of the vertical. Our handstands are located in the tolerance range and will be accepted as an A part. But in comparison to an ideal handstand, we must deduct 0.05 for the deviation from the vertical. In the first example, required by the arm-body angle. In the second example, required by the leg-body angle. The next gymnast attempts to jump into the handstand, but does not reach the handstand position because the deviation from the vertical is too large. The shown movement does not exist in the code of points. That means no element Separation angle. If the technique according to the code demands a leg separation or the gymnast chooses an element with separated legs, then it must start from the ideal of 180 degrees. The 4 examples in the screen window have different quality, which must come to terms in the evaluation. The first example shows the ideal execution: 180 degree separation angle, high support, open arm-body angle, absolute body tension, no deduction. The deviations in the second example are minimal, also no deduction. The third gymnast has visible deviations, minus 0.05. In the fourth example, we see several small faults. For example, separation angle somewhat smaller than 180 degrees, small form faults in the right knee, slight loss of direction, slight bent arms in support, in total minus 0.1. Positions. You are seeing exclusively ideal execution. All the gymnasts have ideal separation angles in the various positions. Here, the context of technique and aesthetics becomes obvious. Likewise in the stands. Quality criteria for body angles, stretched arms, and body tension. Starting from the ideal example for the Shapashnikova, we see in the second example an open arm-body angle, but also a leg-body angle of 90 degrees, and not as in the ideal example of 180 degrees. Yet the body lies before the grasp, contingent upon the high flight, in the horizontal. We are of the opinion that still no deduction should follow for such an execution. Vaulting. To repeat the ideal example, start from there. The second gymnast must receive a deduction for arm-body angle smaller than 180 degrees, bent arms in support, slight loose body recognized by opened legs, slightly bent knees, in total up to 0.25. Faults for the incomplete turn are not considered. The third gymnast shows greater deviation from the ideal because the arms are strongly bent, the minus 0.15, the body is still looser, minus 0.1, knee fault, minus 0.15, larger deviation from the arm-body angle from the ideal, minus 0.1, in total up to 0.5. Clear body positions. In the 4-picture screen, we see exclusively ideal examples. If one chooses, according to the code, the tucked position, then the body must be, as in the first example, closely grouped together. For the piked position, a small leg-body angle is typical, as we see it on bars and floor. On floor, a technical characteristic will even be demonstrated, namely piked stretched, and in the last example, a prescribed straddle angled position will be executed. Very often, the straddle pike jump is presented with unclear body position, half straddle pike angle, half straddle side position, and with hanging legs. incorrect body positions. The first example, double salto backward, piked, tucked. The gymnast shows a piked position only in the first salto. In the transition to the second salto, she must tuck. That means accelerate so that she is able to finish the double salto successfully. The deduction for incorrect body position in this case, minus 0.05. In addition, the open legs on the flick flag are not being considered. In the second example, we see a detail cutout of a full twist. The gymnast has a slight leg-body angle during the entire twist movement, minus 0.05. Unfortunately, there are such and worse deviations much too often. Deductions for this, much too little. In the third example, we have a frame of a double salto backward stretched. The phase that we have frozen has neither a stretched nor a tucked body position. If the gymnast executes the larger part of the course of the movement in this body position, we must devalue the E to D. If the gymnast shows the incorrect body position only at the end, then the E remains E, but with a technical deduction minus 0.1 to minus 0.15. In this case, without considering the opened legs. Our last example should remind us once more of the ideal body position for the double salto backward stretched. It should be highlighted that alone with regard to the criteria, that is correct body position, a differentiated evaluation can and must occur. Incorrect turns during gymnastic and acrobatic elements. Very often, the gymnast pre-turns on the floor or does not end the turn in the flight, but on the floor as we have just seen. A cat leap with full turn is B. For this technique, we must devalue it to A and deduct minus 0.05 for insufficient tuck movement. Benton leap. This cat leap with a double turn is D. The typical leg scissors movement is correct, but the double turn in flight is not completely executed. The deviation exceeds the tolerance range of 20 degrees. D becomes C, no technical deduction. The next example shows that also on bars, flight elements and dismounts can be pre-turned, especially the ginger. Here in the picture, the half turn is executed too long in a hang with one hand. Ginger is D. For D, there are bonus points, and bonus points demand correct technique. Therefore, in such cases, for grasping too long contrary to technique, minus 0.2, no bonus points. In opposition to correct technique, that means exactness or phases in combination turns. This gymnast releases the hands somewhat after one another. That is normal. But she then performs the largest part of the long axis turn in flight and passes into the salto turn. Height and distance are very good, no deduction. Bonus points for extra D. During dismounts, combination turns should also be performed with exact phases. The judges must recognize in which moment the turn occurs. The value of the element often depends upon this. In our example, we see a new form of the double salto backward with a full 360-degree long axis turn as a dismount. Since the gymnast does not perform the long axis turn as up until now in the first salto, but instead she transfers the long axis turn between both saltos. Above all, that is to be recognized on flight from the apparatus. We see that she takes flight forward, upward. With this, the shoulders lie parallel to the high bar. First, in about the last third of the first salto, she passes into the long axis turn. This dismount is D. The combination turn was demonstrated with exact phases, no deduction, bonus points for extra D. The last example for exactness of phases for combination turns. Double salto backward stretched with full long axis turn twist in the first salto, E on floor. In the picture you are seeing a flight from the floor with hardly visible pre-turn, and she ends the long axis turn in the first salto stretched. Also, the second salto is performed with fully stretched body position. No deduction. Bonus points for extra E. Topic, landings. According to Article 9 in the Code, there is for a small hop each 0.05 deduction, a step or large hop each minus 0.1 deduction. Thus, our gymnast receives minus 0.05 deduction, without consideration of the minimal loss of direction. The second gymnast must accept a deduction of minus 0.2 since she first reached the stand after 2 large hops. Accordingly, also for the bar dismount of the next gymnast, minus 0.1 is to be deducted for a large hop. The deductions for hops or steps must also be taken on floor during acrobatic flight elements, as for example, for the double salto backward stretched E minus 0.05, exclusively for the small hop. An important criteria for good landings is the position of the upper body in space, respectively, to the apparatus. Our first example is okay. The following are to be differentiated by evaluation. A deduction of up to 0.2 is stipulated in writing for both insufficient heights of the acrobatic elements with flight and also for turns incomplete or ended too late. Analogous to this, for our second example, a deduction of 0.05 is possible. So we must penalize the third gymnast approximately 0.15 because the upper body lies barely above the floor. The fourth gymnast has the deepest upper body forward leaning stance, and in addition also a deep tuck position. She must receive, in comparison to the other gymnast, a deduction of minus 0.15 to minus 0.2. For consequences of the deep landing, for example, hops, steps, and similar, there are extra deductions. Following, we will treat the technically dependent general faults from Article 9. Intermediate swing, no up to deduction, each minus 0.3. For example, swing forward, swing backward, intermediate swing. The element underswing with half turn over the low bar occurs, 1 extra swing, minus 0.3. Second example, swing forward with half turn, far under the height of the bar, no element. Swing forward, first extra swing, swing backward, then forward, setting the feet on top of the low bar, no element, second extra swing. Therefore, in total, minus 0.6 deduction. Repetition, 1, 2. Grasping of the apparatus in order to avoid a fall, each minus 0.3. First example, flick-flack, swing down with a full long axis turn, D on beam, minus 0.3. But D remains D, no bonus points on account of deduction of minus 0.3. Touching the apparatus or the mat with the hand or the foot contrary to the technique, each up to 0.2. For our example, a full deduction of minus 0.2. Additional movements in order to maintain balance. Deduction each up to minus 0.3. Deduction for our first example, minus 0.1, without consideration of the step faults. Further examples, vault, first, question for the course participants, how much is the deduction for the landing? It is a matter of recognizing a touching of the mat with the knee, full deduction minus 0.2, additionally, minus 0.05 for the deep upper body position, or also more deduction, minus 0.05 for loss of direction, minus 0.1 for large step, in total, minus 0.4. The closing or drawing of the leg will not be deducted as a step. This example shows clearly that a few judges are not able to see the touching of the mat through the scoreboard. Thus, it is possible that the judges have not deducted minus 0.2 and have a correspondingly higher score. Please evaluate the landings of the next vaults. Also, here we have to deduct minus 0.2 for touching the mat. It is not a fall because the gymnast straightens up quickly. Further, there is a deduction of minus 0.1 for taking too deep a landing. Remember, please, the previous example on this topic. And finally, minus 0.1 for a step backward. The closing of the leg brings no deduction. Further on bars, the gymnast brushes the high bar with the right leg on the counterstraddle or tkachev. The full deduction for touching the apparatus is minus 0.2. Counterstraddle is D. D remains D. No bonus points. The topic, fall, according to Article 9, deduction each time minus 0.5. In the picture window, we see different examples. They should portray that fall is fall. All the same, whether one hand, two hands, knees, etc., because every fall leads back to a large technical fault. Fall on both hands, minus 0.5. Fall on one hand, minus 0.5. In this case, it is not a touch of the apparatus. It is clear to see that the gymnast falls with one hand on the beam and does not only touch the apparatus with the hand. Fall from the apparatus on a double turn, deduction minus 0.5, no bonus points, D remains D. Fourth example, fall on the beam, deduction minus 0.5. Also, if the gymnast does not leave the beam, she demonstrates a fall on the pelvis or hips. It is a question of not only clinging to the apparatus, but also in order to avoid a fall. Topic: recognition of value parts. Beam. Round off on the springboard, flick-flack as mount, C. This gymnast executes the main movement of the element. She comes only to the hand support and falls. Deduction, minus 0.5. To be managed, no C. That means no element, since the main movement is missing. Therefore, mount without value, minus 0.1, see Article 9. In the second example, a salto backward with step out at the end is performed as a D mount, but only landed on one leg with a subsequent fall, minus 0.5. And the evaluation from D to C, no bonus points. Jaeger salto tucked on bars, D. The gymnast hangs and then falls afterward. Minus 0.5. D remains D. No bonus points. Differently, in the following Jaeger, the gymnast does not arrive in a hang, but touches or brushes the high bar with the hands. D is devalued to C. For fall, minus 0.5. No bonus points. If the gymnast absolutely does not touch the bar on a flight element, then the element is not executed. Recognition of value parts with long axis turns. Full twist. In the first example, the gymnast ends the turn before the landing. No deduction. Second, triple twist. The gymnast has almost ended the turn with the shoulder. The hips and feet are located in the tolerance range of 20 to 30 degrees. For correct landing, the shoulders, hips, and feet must have ended the turn. We think in this case, E remains E, no bonus points, deduction minus 0.2. Differently in the next example, it is clear to recognize that the gymnast wants to do a triple twist and not a 2.5 twist. All decisive body points, shoulders, hips, and feet, turn only 900 degrees around the long axis and therefore minus 0.2 and more. Devaluation from E to D, no bonus points. In this case, we may not accept a 2.5 twist because it is a D according to the code and must receive bonus. But we have to deal with a devalued D, therefore no bonus points. Fourth example, also in the moment the floor is touched by the feet, the position of the hips and shoulders is to be observed, whether to recognize C, D, or E. Our last example shows that the deviation is greater than 20 degrees, so devaluation of the element 1 level. The same measurement is to be used for the 1.5, double, and 2.5 twist for dismounts not only on floor but also on the beam and likewise on bars. Topic, open legs. Deduction according to Article 9, each up to minus 0.15. First example, minus 0.05 to minus 0.1. Second example, minus 0.1 to 0.15. In the past years, this deduction was hardly put to use. In the new Olympic cycle, it is to be worked with accordingly. Opened legs are not aesthetic and often serve also to accelerate on breadth axis turns, which means they are utilized as a technical remedy. Topic: collective deductions. This is a question of, for example, very slight form breaks, very small deviations from correct body angles, for example, on glides forward or swings forward on bars, a little or a slight early opening of the legs, and other faults. In such cases, it is suggested to take a total deduction for longer connections. For example, this mount series on beam. Total deduction, minus 0.05. For the following middle series on beam, flick-flack, salto backward with step out 2 times, minus 0.1. Moreover, it concerns only the form breaks of the knee here. The loss of balance is to be additionally deducted. Similarly, in the third example, flick-flack, step-out salto 3 times. The form breaks in the knee are somewhat more clearly marked, and to calculate for the 4 elements, proposal, minus 0.15. So the last example, flick-flack, step-out salto 2 times, can be evaluated with minus 0.15 for the relaxed body form. Such collective deductions can also be taken at the end of the exercise. Topic: fluent transitions of connections. These are bound to a good technique and guarantee the continuity. That means a good rhythm, good tempo, and in total good dynamics, as is, for example, demonstrated by this gymnast. The second gymnast has a stop between the swing down and the back lying position, thus a disturbance in rhythm, deduction minus 0.05. Or integrate these minimal faults into the collective deduction at the end of the exercise. A further example, Arabian salto piked, B, no deduction. You see a high flight, a timely, open, controlled opening of the legs, and a quick straightening of the upper body as a prerequisite for the fluent transition to the Tinsica forward. Differently for the 1.5 twist, the long axis turn is too slow and cannot be completed. The gymnast begins to open the legs much too late and lands too deep. Deduction minus 0.15 to minus 0.2 for lack of continuity and deep landing. Acrobatics, to be deducted according to Article 9 are insufficient height, each time up to 0.2, insufficient tuck, pike, stretch, each time up to 0.2, insufficient turn, each time up to 0.2, opened legs, each time up to 0.15, in addition to body position faults or form breaks. We will begin with walkover backward on floor and beam A. First, walkover backward. Correct. No deduction. Second, walkover backward. For deviation from ideal leg separation, minus 0.05. Third, deduction for lack of leg separation angle, slight loss of direction, somewhat twisted hips, minus 0.1. Walk over backward to handstand on beam. Swing down to a cross straddle sit, A. No deduction. We are seeing a high support, smooth swing down with corresponding forward shoulder position or lean, and a long hold of the arch position. This technique is a prerequisite for the Corbett flick-flack. Walk over forward without flight phase, that is, on beam and floor, A. First example, ideal execution. High support, optimum leg separation, straightening with hold of the leg forward upward. Second example, high support, good leg separation, good straightening of the upper body, no deduction. Third example, backswing to tick-tock, still no deduction or minus 0.05 for slight interruption or break in the swing. Fourth, for lack of leg separation, minus 0.05, and for loss of balance, minus 0.05. All walkovers on beam are A. All handsprings are B. First example, the flight phase is to be detected. That is, the gymnast lies in flight between the hand and foot support, has not touched the beam. That was the case. B, no deduction. Second example, the gymnast shows likewise a B handspring, but her flight phase is not so high. Therefore, minus 0.05. In the third example, we see a quick walkover forward without flight phase, because in the moment of the landing with the foot, the gymnast still has a hand support. We must evaluate this element as an A element. No deduction. Such techniques are seen very often, and the judge must decide concerning the flight or no flight in a split second. That means concerning A or B. Head kip, B, in the exercise and as mount. The head kip is a turnover element and has the same technical requirements to be fulfilled as the handspring forward. But our gymnast shows no flight phase, and we must evaluate this B likewise to A. No deduction. In competition, we are seeing the head kip almost exclusively without flight phase. Up until now, it is certain that no devaluation has occurred. That must be changed. Free aerial walkover forward on beam C. Ideal execution, no deduction. Very good lift movement, very good height of flight, large leg separation, quick straightening of the upper body, sure landing. Second, good technique, no deduction. Third, for form break of the leg, minus 0.05. Cartwheel, sideward without flight phase after the hand support, on floor and beam, A. We are seeing a high support, good leg separation, stretched hips, quick straightening of the upper body, no deduction. Round off on beam B on floor A. The gymnast shows a good arm hand repulsion, a good flight phase, a quick straightening of the upper body to recognize the horizontal position of the upper body before the placement of the feet. No deduction. Free aerial cartwheel on beam C on floor A. First example, ideal technique. Very good lift movement. Large leg separation, stretched hips, quick straightening of the upper body in a sure stand. Second, good lift movement, lack of leg separation, main fault bent hips, and small unsureness in stand, minus 0.1. Third, main lack, insufficient leg separation, bent hips, straightening of the upper body with slight balance loss, minus 0.1. Flick-flack on beam B on floor A. We are seeing two examples of elements with separated legs in the ideal execution, characterized by high support. That means the arm-body angle is fully stretched. The arms are stretched. The legs have a separation angle of 180 degrees, even at times an oversplit. Strong arm repulsion connected with a quick straightening of the upper body and bringing of the free leg to the support leg so that the transition to the next element can occur without a loss of tempo. Second, same ideal technique for the flick-flack with support of one arm. Flick-flack in side position on beam C. This gymnast also shows ideal technique. She must certainly underjump the flick-flack because in the side position, the takeoff and landing occurs from and on the same place. Flick-flack swing down on beam in all variations B. No deduction. Mount, round off, flick-flack, swing down on beam C. The gymnast shows high flight, taking of support with straight arms, open arm-body angle, smooth swing down, fluent transition into the next movement, no deduction. Same element performed by the same gymnast, but in another competition, a high flight, taking of support with slightly bent arms, too fast a swing down, pause and correction in the sit, and thus a disturbance in rhythm in the transition to the back lying position, minus 0.05. Flick-flack swing down with clear faults, flight okay, bent knees, and lack of body tension in flight. Taking of support with immediate quick bending of the arms, thereby a pause in the sit, minus 0.2. Omeleanchik flick-flack, D, That means backward takeoff with 1/4 turn into the side handstand. The handstand must be marked, but must not be held 2 seconds. No deduction for this gymnast, or for the small correction of the leg in handstand, minus 0.05. Flick-flack swing down with the full twist D. Good flight, quick turn, and end it early enough, but the taking of support occurs with clearly bent arms, and there is a small disturbance in the transition to the next stand, minus 0.05 to 0.1, bonus points for extra D. Same element, the gymnast falls on the apparatus, minus 0.5. D remains D, no bonus points for extra D. Flick-flack with tucking and stretching to swing down to a cross-straddle sit on beam C. No deduction. Same element, very high flight. Amplitude of the tuck stretch movement somewhat too small and lopsided. Left leg hangs. Very good taking of support with open arm body angle and stretched arms. Fluent swing down with a good transition into the next movement. Minus 0.05. Third example, high and good tuck stretch movement, bending of the arms too quickly, relaxed body on the swing down, form break in the knee, interruption of the movement into the cross sit, minus 0.05 to minus 0.1. Fourth, high average standard here, tuck stretch movement with loose body, swing down on the severely bent arms, too large a shoulder lean forward with relaxed body and with knee faults, minus 0.15 to minus 0.2. Gainer flick-flack on beam B on floor A. This gymnast shows ideal execution. No deduction. Gainer salto stretched with step out C. Fault-free demonstration. No deduction. Same element. For additional movements in order to maintain balance, see Article 9, minus 0.3. We will proceed now to salto forward. First example, salto forward tucked on floor A. Good height, narrow tuck, timely opening of the legs in step out. No deduction. Second, salto forward piked, B on floor. No deduction. Salto forward tucked as beam mount, D. No deduction. Bonus points for extra D. Salto forward pike to a side rear support on beam, D. A salto mount to side position cannot be executed so high as to a cross position, because the gymnast would then jump over the beam. For this execution, no deduction. Salto forward on the beam, D with takeoff from both legs, C with takeoff from one leg. In the picture window, you are able to compare the different flight heights, and it should be remembered once more that the flight height is the mark of quality of the salto. First, very good flight height as mount, good tuck position, good opening of the legs to prepare for landing, no deduction. Bonus points for extra D. Same mount, flight phase flatter than in the first example, unsure landing, minus 0.05 to 0.1. D remains D, still bonus points. Salto forwards, D. Flight height, tuck position, okay. Landing too deep and unsure, minus 0.05. Additional movements in order to maintain balance, minus 0.1. D remains D, still bonus points for extra D. Salto forward with takeoff from one leg to sit without support of the hands. C. No deduction or for small compensating movement in sit, minus 0.05. Salto forward with long axis turn. First, tucked with a full twist, C. Good height, long axis turn with landing completed. Tuck position 2 open, slight opened legs, in total minus 0.05. Second, salto forward stretched with half twist on floor, C. Height okay, clearly pre-turn before the takeoff from the floor. Body stretch okay. Opened legs during the entire movement. Sure landing. In total, minus 0.1 to 0.15. Third, salto forward stretched with 1.5 long axis turn, E on floor. For this execution, no deduction, or for height and form, minus 0.05. You are seeing that the salto forward is rebounded from the flick-flack forward, B. That means flight from both hands with a curved movement, landing on both legs. Salto forward stretched with a full long axis turn or twist on floor is D. You are seeing lack of height, minus 0.05, loose leg posture, minus 0.05, deep landing and opening of the legs too late in the step out, minus 0.05. D remains D, bonus points for extra D. Salto forward tucked with a full twist as beam dismount, C. Here, for lack of height, minus 0.1. For slow and ending of the turn too late, minus 0.1. For small hop on the landing, minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.25. Salto forward piked with 1.5 twist as beam dismount, C. For inconsequential pike position, minus 0.05. For crossing of the legs in flight, minus 0.05. For steps, minus 0.2. In total, minus 0.3. Salto backward stretched with legs together on the beam, D. The decisive criterion for the recognition as D: high flight, closed legs, stretched or overstretched leg-body angle that must be maintained, upright upper body on the landing. Our gymnast demonstrates the ideal technique, no deduction, bonus points for extra D. Second example, salto backward piked on the beam, C. Attention, this gymnast only starts the salto stretched. A much too early pike over occurs. The pike movement is predominant, therefore C, with good height, but somewhat opened loose legs, minus 0.05 to 0.1. The next gymnast presents us the decision. Salto backward poorly stretched or poorly tucked. We think salto backward tucked, B, and deduct for the body position from minus 0.15. You are seeing stretched hips in the upward movement, opened legs, and angled knees behind, and the downwards movement occurs in a poor tuck position with slight opened legs, and the landing is unsure. In total, minus 0.2 to 0.25. Mount salto backward with step out, D. Height, distance, leg separation angle, and landing very good. No deduction. Bonus points for extra D. Floor, salto backward piked, stretched, A, in ideal execution. Salto backward with step out, A, in ideal execution. Both of these executions serve as a model for the evaluation of all saltos. For example, for the next gymnast, main deficiencies, loose body in the second half of the salto, the stretched position is abandoned and it is landed with unsureness, minus 0.15. Further examples, salto backward tucked on the beam, B. Height okay, tuck position somewhat open, slight opened legs, unsure landing, minus 0.1 to 0.15. Double salto backward. First, piked on floor, C. Good technique, no deduction. Second, tucked on beam as dismount, D. Good technique, no deduction. Third, tucked as dismount, D. Height and tuck position good. For opened legs, minus 0.1. For unsureness on the landing, minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.15. Bonus points for extra D. Likewise, a double salto as beam dismount, D. Very good height. Distance, less good but sufficient. Good tuck position, but with opened legs, especially in the second half of the salto turn. Upright landing with small hop. In total, minus 0.1. Bonus points for extra D. Next gymnast with double salto as beam dismount with good execution. No deduction. Same dismount with very good height, small deficiency in the distance, and opened legs in the second salto, minus 0.05. Somewhat deep upper body lean on the landing. Minus 0.05. Two steps backward, minus 0.2. No bonus points for extra D and deduction in total minus 0.3. Double salto backward piked on floor, C. No deduction. Likewise, double salto backward piked, deduction for upper body lean on the landing, minus 0.05. Double salto backward tucked on floor, C. Good height and distance. Strong opening of the legs in the second salto. Quick straightening of the upper body on the landing. For two severely opened legs, minus 0.15. Double salto backward stretched, E, in ideal execution, no deduction. Bonus points for extra E. Second gymnast with double salto backward stretched, good height, distance. For slight opening of the legs, minus 0.05. And upper body lean forward on the landing, minus 0.05. Bonus points for extra E. Third example, very good height and distance, slight opened legs, small hop on the landing, in total minus 0.05. Bonus point for extra E. Fourth, double salto backward stretched. The stretched body position is shown, and one can accept this double salto as stretched. The faults, opened legs and slightly bent knees, minus 0.05. Somewhat too early pike in before the landing and too deep a landing, minus 0.1. Strong upper body forward lean on the landing, minus 0.1. One step, minus 0.1. In total, minus 0.35 to minus 0.4. E remains E. No bonus point for extra E. Further, with the double salto backward stretched, we are seeing form break in the legs and fall on both hands, minus 0.5. E remains E because the gymnast landed on the feet and has thus carried the double salto to its completion. No bonus points for extra E. Double salto backward stretched with step out, E. Good height. Good stretched position. For too deep a landing and small step, minus 0.1. Bonus points for extra E. Twists. First full twist with ideal execution on floor B. Very good height, ideal tight body, ideal stretched position, quick long axis turn, almost ended in the first half of the salto, sure landing with open body angle, and thus with upright upper body. This execution serves as a technical model for compulsory and optional. As a beam dismount, the full twist is B, with very good height and distance, with absolute body extension and quick long axis turn, no deduction. This execution receives, for deficient height, minus 0.05, For too slow, a long axis turn, including the hip angle, minus 0.05. For the hop, minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.15. Full twist on the beam E, ideal execution, no deduction. Bonus points for extra E. Full twist tucked on the beam E, false. Too deep a landing and loss of balance on the landing, minus 0.15. Still bonus points for extra E. Faulty example of a full twist on floor, movement in total too slow, including long axis turn, hip angle during the entire long axis turn, deep upper body forward lean, and step on the landing, in total minus 0.2 to minus 0.25. Double twist on floor, C. First example, slight pre-turn, good height, long axis turn completed at the landing, legs slightly loose, no deduction, or minus 0.05. Second, up to the highest point of the path of flight without deduction. In the downward movement, a definite hip angle, minus 0.1. Somewhat opened legs before the landing and too strong a lean of upper body forward on the landing, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Step faults, minus 0.1. Total deduction, minus 0.25 to 0.3. Third, double twist, slight hip angle, slight loose and opened legs, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Fourth, take off with distinct pre-turn, minus 0.1. Severely crossed in loose legs, minus 0.1. Turn too slow and with slight hip angle. Turn completed just before the landing, minus 0.05. Deduction in total, minus 0.25 minimum. Same technical fault on the double twist as beam dismount, C. Same deduction or somewhat more. In total, minus 0.3 to 0.35. Double twist as beam dismount, C. Question, which deduction would you take? Main faults, crossed legs during the flight, minus 0.05. Slight hip angle, minus 0.05. Deep landing, minus 0.05. 3 steps backward with loss of direction, minus 0.3. In total, minus 0.4 minimum. Triple twist on floor, E, and very good technique, no deduction, bonus points for extra E. Triple twist as beam dismount, E, in good technique, minus 0.05, bonus points for extra E. Likewise, triple twist as beam dismount. For step faults, minus 0.1. For loss of direction, minus 0.05. For incomplete turn on the landing, minus 0.05 to 0.1. In total, minus 0.2 to minus 0.25. E remains E, no bonus points for extra E. 2.5 twist on floor D. This gymnast shows very good height. Quick long axis turn and upright sure landing. 1.5 twist C, no deduction, or for slight pre-turn and the smallest fault in leg form, minus 0.05. Second, deductions for slight pre-turn, distinct hip angle, somewhat too late opening of the legs into the step-out position, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Third, slight pre-turn and slight hip angle, minus 0.05. Turn too slow and not fully completed, minus 0.1. Late opening of the legs in the step-out and very deep landing, minus 0.1. In total, minus 0.2 to 0.25. Double salto backward with full twist in first salto on floor D. First gymnast piked, good technique, no deduction. Second gymnast tucked, good height, distance, turn, landing. For open legs in second salto, minus 0.05 to 0.1. D remains D. Bonus points for extra D. Tsukahara as beam dismount, piked or tucked, E. We are seeing a good height, good distance, and combined turn. Slight form fault of the legs. Slight opened legs, minus 0.05. Deep landing with small hop, minus 0.1. E remains E, bonus points for extra E, in total deduction minus 0.15. Tsukahara on floor D, main deficiencies. 2 opened legs, minus 0.1. Deep landing, minus 0.1. Large step, minus 0.1. In total, minus 0.3. No bonus points for extra D. Tsukahara stretched on floor E without deduction or minus 0.05 for slight opened legs. Second example, small hip angle and a little less height than in the first example, minus 0.1 or 0.15, bonus points. Arabian element B on floor and also as beam dismount. That means backward takeoff with 1/2 turn and salto forward or handspring forward. Arabian handspring on the beam E. No deduction, bonus points for extra E. Arabian piked B on floor, no deduction. Double Arabian on floor E, good height. Good, correct tuck position. Upright landing. Slight opened legs, minus 0.05. Bonus points for extra E. Salto sidewards from takeoff on both legs on floor B. Here for hop on the landing, minus 0.05. From the takeoff on one leg tucked or piked on beam, D. Stretched, E. In our example, with slight knee fault and unsure landing, minus 0.15, bonus points for extra D. From takeoff on one leg on floor, A. For the shown performance, no deduction. Special handstand elements on beam. Upward right, rune handstand, C. Requirement, legs horizontal with 2-second hold. Side handstand with flank down, C. In our example, no deduction. Walk over forward in side position, C. No deduction. Or for slight opened legs, minus 0.05. Handstand turns on floor from 1.5, B. In our case, no deduction. On beam from a full turn, B. For this execution, no deduction. With 1 3/4 turn, C on beam. For our gymnast, no deduction. Mount faults on beam. First gymnast, jump into handstand at end of beam, B. For slight hip angle, minus 0.05 to 0.1. For 2 slow straightening of the upper body, minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.1 to minus 0.15. Second gymnast, she would like to jump into the handstand but succeeds with only one leg in the handstand position. Support of arms okay, arm body angle okay, but incomplete handstand, devaluation to A, no deduction, and mount performed. Third gymnast jumps to near handstand position at the end of the beam, no handstand. Since both legs are located outside the vertical, minus 0.2 or more. For unsuccessful handstand and no element, that means mount without value, and for composition, minus 0.1, in total about minus 0.3. The next gymnast likewise misses the B mount because she would like to execute a side handstand with cross-straddled legs. Good technique and support, and good posture, but no clear handstand position. Devaluation to A, mount performed. Uneven bars. We concern ourselves first with the hang. The ideal technical hang position is characterized by hanging or hinged. That means moving away from the point of grasp. With a large arm body angle, a large leg body angle, absolute tight body entirely the same whether the hang is performed with a regular grip, a reverse grip, or an eagle grip. Same concerns the support position or the transition from support to hang. Clear hip circle to handstand B. Our gymnast shows ideal technique, the technical model. No deduction. Second example, still no deduction, but better, minus 0.05. Third example, main deficiencies. Hip angle in the hollow action, slight bent arms and open feet, minus 0.05 to 0.1. arch in handstand, and deviation of the shoulder from the vertical minus 0.05 to 0.1. Deduction in total minus 0.15 to 0.2. Fourth, clear hip circle without a handstand position A, no deduction in this case. Fifth, cast to handstand with legs together B, with ideal technique to recognize an active opening of the arm body angle and ascent of the whole back up to the vertical. No deduction. Cast to handstand, still no deduction. Cast to handstand, deduction for arch, minus 0.05. Since in spite of this, the gymnast shows an arch-tight body, and for open legs, minus 0.05, in total, minus 0.1. Reverse grip handstand, likewise B. The gymnast takes up the reverse grip before the cast and swings to handstand. No deduction. Possibly for slight arch in handstand, minus 0.05. Stalder backward to handstand, C. No deduction. Pike sole circle backward to handstand, C. No deduction. Possible deduction for momentary arch and slightly bent arms in the upward movement, minus 0.05. Giant circle backward to handstand B. This gymnast shows us the ideal technique, the technical model. She has an almost stretched body angle during the entire movement. Further, with the giant circle backward to handstand, no deduction. Third example, for knee faults, above all in the downward movement, minus 0.1, handstand position, very good. Fourth, giant circle backward, for slightly bent arms in the downward movement and slight arch in the handstand, minus 0.05. Next giant circle backward, no deduction, because the hip angle in the vertical suggests that the gymnast will perform the accelerated giant, as we will see from the next gymnast. Accelerated giant circle backward, likewise B. In slow motion, we see clearly a large range in the downward movement by the open arm body angle and leg body angle, a tight arch before, in, and after the lower vertical, a quick swing forward of the legs to achieve a leg body angle of about 90 degrees, then opening of the arm body angle in the further upward movement with maintaining the leg body angle, swing over the high bar with a hip angle with the goal of approaching while accelerating. A technical model, no deduction. Last example, an approach by bending of the legs is not permitted. For opened legs, minus 0.1. For bent knees, minus 0.15 to 0.2. In total, minus 0.25 to 0.3. Giant circle forward C. This gymnast shows an opened body angle, no deduction. Second example, slightly bent arms, still no deduction. Third example, slight opened legs and somewhat loss of tempo, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Fourth example, too late closing of the legs and posture fault, minus 0.1 minimum. Handstand elements with long axis turn. We remember the rule, ideal handstand position means handstand in the upper vertical with 10-degree deviation on both sides. The handstand can be recognized. The same is valid for long axis turns. First example, the half turn is executed after the handstand. The element remains C. Second example, for slight arch in handstand, minus 0.05. Third example, cast to handstand with half turned after the handstand B, slight arch, slight opened legs, one half turn not exactly over the upper vertical, minus 0.1 minimum. Fourth example, B, minus 0.15 to minus 0.2. Slightly bent arms, definite arch, slightly opened and bent legs, and strong hip angle after the long axis turn. Clear hip circle to the handstand with half turn after the handstand B. Late forcible push in handstand minus 0.05. Strong forward shoulder position with slightly bent arms up to 0.1. Rhythm fault minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.15 minimum. Giant circle with half turn completed in handstand C. You are seeing an ideal execution because the half turn occurs with release hop. Giant circle forward with half turn completed in handstand C. Good technique, no deduction. Clear hip circle with half turn completed in handstand C. Good technique. Clear hip circle with half turn in handstand or after. We think that the shoulders and the feet deviate too strongly from the vertical. Therefore, B, and for the small correction in handstand, minus 0.05. Handstand elements with full turn. First example, Stalder backward with full turn. The turn is completed after the handstand. C remains C, no deduction. Cast to handstand with full turn after the handstand. C, false, arch, minus 0.05. Handstand not fully reached, minus 0.05. In total, minus 0.1 minimum. Stalder backward to handstand with full turn far after the handstand. Arch, late conclusion of the full turn. Hip angle in conclusion of the full turn. Turn not exactly during the handstand position. Minus 0.15 to minus 0.2. Giant circle forward with full turn in eagle grip, D. Ideally performed, no deduction. Swing forward with half turn, turn completed at height of the high bar, A, no deduction. Swing forward with half turn completed slightly under the high bar height, still A, deduction 4, deficient height, minus 0.05, opened legs, minus 0.05, in total, minus 0.1. Swing forward with half turn completed before the upper vertical, that means before the handstand, thus B, no deduction. Giant circle backward with half turn completed in handstand, C, as already seen. All three gymnasts demonstrated a swing forward with half turn and indeed from A to B to C. Underswings as specific apparatus flight elements. First, underswing with half turn and flight over the low bar to support B. For bent legs in the downward movement, minus 0.05. The same element, deductions for deficient flight height, minus 0.1, bent arms upon taking of the grasp, minus 0.05 to 0.1, in total, minus 0.15 to 0.2. Underswing with half turn, with faults, and to be sure, a flat flight phase, minus 0.1, low hang position at grasp, and bent arms, minus 0.05, slow turn, minus 0.05, one-sided straddle in hang, minus 0.05, in total, minus 0.25 to 0.3. Underswing with 1.5 turn and flight over the low bar, D, strong. For somewhat loose and slightly crossed legs, deduct minus 0.05. Bonus points for extra D. In slow motion. Same element, same gymnast in another competition, but for form, minus 0.05. Other specific apparatus flight elements. First, from hang on high bar, flight backward to handstand on the low bar, C, no deduction. Second, same element, for closing the legs too late, minus 0.1. Third, 3/4 clear straddle circle forward on high bar with flight over the low bar to clear support, C, no deduction. Fourth, 3/4 giant circle forward on high bar with release hop to handstand on the low bar, D, no deduction, bonus points for extra D. Swing forward, stoop through, release, and hop with flight to handstand on low bar, D, bonus points for extra D. Underswing with half turn and flight to handstand on the low bar, D, ideally executed, bonus points for extra D. This gymnast has performed the same element, but has a large deduction, minus 0.2, for deviation from handstand. D remains D, no bonus points. Shaposhnikova, C, ideal technique, no deduction. Same element, still no deduction. Likewise, the same element, deduction for lower body position and hip angle in flight, minus 0.05. Flight elements on same bar. Counter straddle from a clear hip circle, Hindorf salto, E. Ideal execution. We are seeing high flight, clearly marked counter technique, stretched arms and high shoulder position on the grasp, bonus points for extra E. Counter tuck, D, no deduction. Flight, shoulder position and stretched arms on grasp, okay, bonus points for extra D. Counter straddle D, deduction for slight right knee fault, minus 0.05. Bonus points for extra D. Counter straddle from stalder backward D, deductions for deficient height and distance during the flight over minus 0.1 to minus 0.15, bonus points for extra D. Jaeger salto piked E, ideally performed. High flight, clear pike form, ideal body position on grasp, bonus points for extra E. Jaeger salto from hang, C, also as a mount C, no deduction. Cast, salto forward E, comanite salto, no deduction. Bonus points for extra E. Delchev D, no deduction. High and wide flight, clear combined turn, high body position on grasp, large distance range in the hang with an opened body angle, bonus points for extra D. Ginger D, high flight, clear pike form and clear combined turn, slightly bent arms on grasp, open legs, arch in the transition to hang, minus 0.05 to 0.1, still bonus points for extra D. Same element with high flight, insufficient distance of flight, slow long axis turn which is not yet concluded at the moment of grasp, to be seen at the shoulders and hips, and also opened legs. Total deduction minus 0.25 minimum. D remains D, no bonus points for extra D. Ginger with extra swing, minus 0.3. D remains D, no bonus points for extra D. Giant circle backward with full turn in the upward movement and flight backward over the high bar. E, Shushunova, no deduction. Bonus points for extra E. 3/4 giant circle backwards, salto backward with 1.5 turn to hang on high bar. E, Hristakieva, faults, good height and long axis turn. Grasp with bent arms, minus 0.05. Loose and opened legs, together minus 0.15. In total, minus 0.2. E remains E, no bonus points for extra E. Giant circle forward, flight over the same bar straddled, and with a half turn, C, Volpi, deduction for flat flight phase, slow and late completion of turn, form faults, in total minus 0.15 to 0.2. Lily piked, D, no deduction. Lily straddled. D. Deduction for lack of flight height up to .1. Counter Kim E. Deduction for form faults of the legs minus .05. Uprise movements. Uprise to clear support, B. No deduction. We are seeing a high support and good body tension. Same element, B. No deduction. Shear straddle, C. Flight and form OK. Grasp at high position of the body to apparatus, no deduction. Shear, care, C. No deduction. Kips. They happen in all bar exercises repeatedly. We are seeing the ideal execution. Glide or swing forward to bar height. Besides, absolute body tension, full opened arm body angle and leg body angle. Only through this technique can swinging execution by the A elements in our kip examples be realized. For large deviations from the ideal, the deduction for each kip must be taken. For smaller deviations, collective deductions at the end of the exercise are suggested. Longhand kips, A. In the swing forward, this gymnast has an open arm body angle, but the hips are bent about 90 degrees. The height of the body position at the return point is insufficient. In addition, a hip angle occurs on the backswing or cast. The gymnast has too large a deviation from the ideal performance with open body angle, therefore minus .1. Hecht movements. First example, mount free hecht with legs together over the low bar to hang on high bar, B. No deduction. Dismount, clear hecht with salto backward tucked, D. No deduction. Mounts. Salto forward with hand support on the low bar to hang on high bar, B. No deduction. Salto forward tucked in front of the high bar to hang with immediate grip change, C. No deduction. Round off from the springboard, flick-flack with full twist over the low bar to hang, E. Deduction for opened legs and momentarily slightly bent arms, minus .05 to minus .1. E remains E, bonus points for extra E. Round off from the springboard, Arabian tucked over the low bar to hang on high bar, E. Bonus points for extra E, no deduction. Round off from the springboard, salto backward tucked over the low bar to hang, D. Deduction for momentary strong bent arms and slight opened legs, minus .05. Bonus points for extra D. Jump to a clear support on high bar, clear hip circle to handstand, C. Deduction for slightly opened and loose legs, minus .05. Slightly bent arms, minus .05. In total, minus .1. Dismounts. Underswing with support of feet, salto forward pike with half turn, C. We are seeing a high flight phase with very good body tension, clear pike form, quick half turn, upright landing, small hop, minus 0.05. Same element with smaller height of flight, minus 0.05, slightly opened legs and small hop, minus 0.1, in total up to minus 0.15. Underswing, salto forward tucked with half turn, C. Flatter flight, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Open legs, minus 0.05 to 0.1. A step on the landing, minus 0.1. In total, minus 0.25 to minus 0.3. Dismounts from a swing forward. Swing forward, salto backward stretched, A, no deduction. Double salto backward tucked, B, no deduction. Same element, B, no deduction. Likewise, B, deduction 4, too early tuck, good height, turn, and opening before landing, hop, minus 0.1. Double salto backward piked, C, no deduction. Likewise, C, deduction 4, dropping of the flight path, minus 0.05, deep landing and hop, minus 0.1, in total, minus 0.15. Double salto backward stretched, E, with ideal execution, high and wide flight, resulting stretched position during the breath axis turn, outstanding body tension, upright landing, bonus points for extra E. Next, borderline double salto stretched, but E, good flight, good stretching out of the arm body angle and resulting hold of stretched position, slight opened feet, and somewhat deep landing, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Bonus points for extra E. Swing forward, double salto, backward pike, stretched, E, with high flight and pike form in first salto, stretching out of the leg body angle at the end of the first salto and transition to second, slight bending of the hips in preparation for landing, no deduction, bonus points for extra E. Swing forward, full twist, B, no deduction. Same element, B, no deduction. Double twist, C, height, distance, form good, incorrect long axis turn, minus 0.05. Same dismount, height, distance okay, but 2 steps on the landing, minus 0.2. Tsukahara dismounts. Tsukahara tucked, D, no deduction. Height and distance okay. Long axis turn completed on time. Second salto completed on time. Upright landing. Bonus points for extra D. Same dismount for open legs, minus 0.1. Bonus points for extra D. Third example, height and turn, okay. Open legs in second salto, minus 0.05 or minus 0.1. Deep landing, minus 0.05. Two small hops, minus 0.1. In total, minus 0.2 to minus 0.25. D remains D. No bonus points. Last example, very deep upper body forward lean on landing and 3 steps. In total, minus 0.4. D remains D. No bonus points. Double salto forward tucked with half turn, E. 2 examples. Good height and distance. Tuck form good, but open legs and somewhat deep upper body forward lean on the landing. Minus 0.1. Also, for the second example, bonus points for extra E. Same dismount without half turn, E, fall, minus 0.5. E remains E, no bonus points. Vault, first phase, specific apparatus deductions, poor technique and support, up to 0.2. Long axis turn not fully executed, up to 0.3. First example, entry flight phase for handspring forward in the second flight phase. Good technique and support, that is, opened arm body angle, opened leg body angle, flat approach flight, stretched arms, no deduction. Second, entry flight for salto forward in the second phase, open arm body angle and leg body angle, flat approach flight, overstretched body, very good body tension, no deduction. Third, entry flight for salto forward in the second phase, 2 flat entry phase, 2 little stretched arm body angle, 2 little backward leg thrust in first phase, open legs, deduction about 0.15. Fourth, entry flight for salto forward in the second phase. Slight loose body and slightly open feet, minus 0.05. Tsukahara entry flight phase, prescriptions given according to code. 180-degree long axis turn in the first phase, that means backward entry phase. we are seeing flat entry phase, open body angle, absolute body tension, stretched arms. We also are seeing correct parallel hand support, almost completed turn of the hips, still no deduction. Second, flatter entry flight phase, opened body angle, slightly opened legs minus 0.05, turn under 180 degrees, minus 0.05 to 0.1, in total minus 0.1 to 0.15. To next example. Entry flight too high, opened body angle, 180 degree long axis turn nearly completed, loose body, slightly opened legs and bent legs, minus 0.15 minimum. Last example, entry face somewhat too high, arms slightly bent, hand support displaced, no stretch in arm body angle but in leg body angle, legs clearly opened, deduction minus 0.25 to 0.3. Round off entry flight phase. The picture window facilitates comparable considerations in one look. We are seeing how large the different levels are between the gymnasts. First example, ideal execution, no deduction. Second example, flat entry phase, open body angle, form fault in the legs, minus 0.1 minimum. Third example, flat entry phase, open body angle, wide opened legs, minus 0.1 minimum. This gymnast uses the opened legs later for the turn impulse for the salto backward stretch with a double twist. Fourth example, entry phase somewhat too high, opened body angle, opened and bent legs, in total, body tension not good, minus 0.2 minimum. Support phase. The ideal support will be characterized by, among others, a short support time and strong arm repulsion. First example, the gymnast requires 2 or 3 photo frames in support. The departure flight from the horse occurs still before the vertical. Second example, this gymnast needs 4 to 5 frames for the support, and the departure occurs also in the range of the vertical. Third example, in spite of higher entry phase, the gymnast succeeds in taking flight from the horse after 4 or 5 frames of support time. Deduct minus 0.05 for form faults and slightly opened legs. Fourth example, the gymnast touches the horse unusually short. She takes off in the range of the vertical and through this reaches a large height in the second flight phase, which permits her to execute an exact tuck and stretched position. All is already completed in the first half of the salto. Fifth example, also this gymnast has a very short support time and takes off in a range of the vertical. Through this, she achieves a very good flight rise, which gives her sufficient time for the double twist in the second flight phase. Sixth example, the entry support of this gymnast is much too high. The support time too long, about 6 frames. through which the takeoff flight from the horse occurs far after the vertical, and a high flight will not be reached in the second flight phase. Deduction about minus 0.1. Vaults for evaluation. In the following, we will evaluate the second flight phase and the landing. In the second flight phase, handsprings with and without long axis turns and saltos forward or backward will be performed. These are acrobatic movements, and we are able to use what was learned from the acrobatic technical instruction. Also, we have already handled the deduction faults for landings within the overlapping topics. Attention! Take notice of two changed deductions in the second flight phase: insufficient height and late open extension of the body, each up to 0.5. 22 vaults from different vault groups follow. First, round off, salto backward stretch with full twist. Second, round off, salto backward stretched with full twist. Third, also round off, salto backward stretched with full twist. Fourth, likewise, round off, salto backward stretched with full twist. Number 5, salto forward piked. Number 6, salto forward piked. Number 7, salto forward piked. Number 8, round off, salto backward stretch with double twist. Also, 9th, round off, salto backward stretched with double twist. Likewise, number 10, round off, salto backward stretched with double twist. Number 11, salto forward tucked. Next, salto forward tucked. Salto forward tucked. Salto forward piked. Salto forward piked with half twist. Salto forward piked with half twist. Possibly Cuervo. Salto forward piked with half twist, likewise borderline Cuervo. Salto forward piked with half twist, same example, large hop. Tsukahara, salto backward stretch with full twist. Tsukahara, salto backward stretched. Round off, salto backward stretched. Round off, salto backward stretched. Number 23, and now an unsuccessful round-off vault without completion of the second flight phase with a fall landing on the back. Evaluation is from the flash start value of the STC expert. Gymnastic elements on beam and floor. Turns. Full turn, A, no deduction. Second full turn, devaluation to A, no deduction. On the beam, A, ideal execution, no deduction. Likewise, A, somewhat overturned, some loss of balance, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Three-quarter turn in the back lying position, B, because a full turn in the back lying position is Lili. Is first C, for this execution, no deduction. Lili turn, C, ideal execution. The special requirement, full turn on one leg, will not be fulfilled with this because the turn is executed on the back. Double turn on the beam, D, no deduction. Same gymnast in another competition, minus 0.05. For small unsteadiness, D remains D, bonus points for extra D in both cases. Double turn, D, bonus points for extra D, there is no deduction. Double turn D, fall on the apparatus, minus 0.5. D remains D, no bonus points. Triple turn on floor D. Pay attention whether the gymnast completes the turn in the tolerance range of 20 to 30 degrees. We think no. Devaluation to C, no technical deduction. Triple turn on the beam, E, minus 0.05 to 0.1. Small unsteadiness, E remains E, bonus points for extra E. Leaps, jumps, and hops. Split leap forward with leg change to ring on floor, C. Ideal execution, no deduction. We are seeing a technically perfect ring because the technical demand is the ring must be formed from leg and from upper body. Yang bow jump on the beam, E. We see the ideal technique. Oversplit, large backward curve of the upper body, large flight height, bonus points for extra E. Tuck jump, technical demand. Clear tuck position, that is, knees in the horizontal. We are seeing this in both picture screens. Cat leap with full turn on floor B. Devaluation to A, because the pre-turn amounts to 45 degrees. The scissors position is okay. No technical deduction, only devalue from B to A. Second, cat leap with 1.5 turn on floor, C. No deduction. Third, cat leap with double turn on floor, D. No deduction. There are several faults here. Only one leg is tucked, the other leg remains stretched. Therefore, no cat leap, but stretch jump with tucking of one leg. There are still other faults. A pre-turn of 45 degrees or more, landing after short 1.5 turn, further turning on floor with large loss of balance, evaluation as stretch jump with 1.5 turn B, and for technique, minus 0.1 to minus 0.15. Split leap forward with leg change on floor B on beam C. First example, ideal execution, no deduction. Technical requirement. The first leg must be swung forward upward, stretched, and to 45 degrees. The switch or leg change has to be performed to the split 180 degrees. Next example, devaluation one step for this technique. If the switch leg is too low, or if it is bent or angled as it is here, devaluation also. Then, if the leg is swung forward, upward, bent, and the split leg is reached, devaluation from B to A. Shushanova C. Technical demand. Horizontal position in flight with side straddle of the legs, leg body angle stretched, closing of the legs behind through the horizontal with stretched hips, downward movement of the stretched body through horizontal position in space, arriving in support on the floor. Examples of faults. Horizontal position in space is not held. Kip down, forward, downward to roll down on the chest. Devaluation from C to B. No technical deduction. Other faults are no stretching of hips in flight and the legs hanging, and kip down to roll down on the chest. Our example has additionally a smaller flight height as the both other examples. Devaluation from C to B and minus 0.05 to minus 0.1. Dear judges, coaches, and gymnasts, we hope that with this technical video, we will be able to support you in your demanding work, and with this wish you much success.